Hello, and welcome to our panel, Amplify Your Brand with Digital Marketing. My name is Justin Barnes, and I am a scholarly assistant professor in the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. And I am co-moderating this panel with my colleague, Nanu, and I'll let you introduce yourself there, Nanu.
Hi guys, thank you, Justin. And yes, welcome everyone. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here for our panel discussion on Amplify Your Brand with Digital Marketing. My name is Nanu Iyer. I am a scholarly associate professor in the Strategic Communication Department at the Murrow College. I am located in the WSU Vancouver campus. A big hello from sunny Vancouver this morning. And I can't wait to get back in the classroom, as I'm sure Justin is the same case with you. But I am so excited about our panel today. Should I go ahead and introduce the panel? All right. In alphabetical order, we have Melissa Barnes, is Vice President, Canada and Latin America at Twitter. As the Vice President of Twitter, Canada and Latin America, Melissa leads Twitter's teams across the region focused on expanding advertising revenue, driving innovation, and building Twitter's brand. Melissa joined Twitter in 2012 when it began building out its revenue team, and she has held multiple roles as the company has grown. Before her current role, she was the head of global brands, running the team that oversees Twitter's global advertiser partnerships or key accounts. And there's a more extended bio on her profile on Attendify. Our next panel participant is Nicole Diedrich. She is the owner and director of marketing at Diedrich Marketing Strategies. She is a WSU Murrow College 2017 alumni who graduated with a major in broadcast news and production and an emphasis in advertising. Her aspirations were to grow in the news world and started as a creative and promo specialist at KREM2 News when she graduated. From there, she moved to run a marketing department for one of the top staffing firms in the US and Canada as a multimedia marketing manager. There, she focused on increasing sales through social media and video content, where she created a 40% increase in closing rates for recruiters using video marketing. In 2019, after getting married to her college sweetheart, she decided to take the leap into entrepreneurship and started her own marketing agency. Right? And a much more extensive bio of her is again available on her profile on Attendify. And our last panel participant, Madeline Jeffery, leads the integrated campaign marketing team at Seattle-based company Pitchbook Data. With 10 years plus of experience in the marketing industry, working in both agency and in-house settings across multiple industries, she has built and grown demand generation programs influencing millions of dollars of revenue. Madeline graduated from the Murrow College of Communication at WSU in 2011 with a bachelor's of communication advertising and a minor in sociology. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. And Justin, take it away.
Perfect. And a big thank you to the women that wanted to join us today. We're so excited to have you, and we're looking to pick in your brains. And I wanted to start off, and I wanted to ask the question. We'll start with you, Nicole. Beyond what's mentioned in your bio, could you explain what you do and what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much for having me here. I'm really excited. So you guys will probably notice that, but a little bit about what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I actually have an office that I built into our new home. So my two employees work here in our office, and a little bit about what we do day to day is really servicing our clients. So that's working on engagement, social media content creation, video creation. At our marketing agency, we focus on kind of being the one-stop shop for our small business entrepreneur clients. So we serve them as kind of like their outsourced marketing department. Something I noticed before I went full-time is, one, I love supporting women entrepreneurs and their businesses locally, but I saw that there was kind of a big gap in between marketing, which was like TV commercials and all of that support, right, of budgeting, compared to kind of where they needed to start, which was online social media, especially if they had brick and mortars. And so that's where I wanted to kind of move into. I'm in Spokane, Washington. So we moved in locally, and then now we have a ton of virtual clients as well that are kind of in this medium ground. And we support them with helping them get to a space where eventually, right, their revenue may be able to withstand an in-house marketing team. But as we're starting and as business owners are starting, we don't really have that budget. So we kind of allow them to get the full team experience for less than one person, hiring them on, and just really growing all of their marketing online.
Great, thank you. And then I'll hand it over here to you, Melissa, if you would want to jump in on that as well, please.
Sure. So a typical day for me, it varies between the operational things you have to do when you're running a region and then the sort of standard things you do when you're positioning your platform to the marketplace. So part of my day was focused on looking at a narrative that we're about to launch to advertisers on why they should advertise on Twitter and making sure that that feels right. I just did a review of the different sort of research needs in different markets because measurement differs by market and what's available from a tools perspective. I'm reviewing the numbers for Q1 and looking at the numbers for Q2 and trying to understand how our business will do. And then later on today, I have a meeting with our head of policy to talk about some of the things that we're looking at as we look at our world leader policy. And so, as some of you may know, Trump introduced some interesting new moments for Twitter. And we're looking at how does that scale to places like Brazil, where President Bolsonaro is also very active on the platform, and what might the implications be there. So it can kind of really range as I look at the day.
Fascinating. Thank you. Madeline, we'd like to give you a chance to jump in as well, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So my team at Pitchbook, we strategize, create, and execute marketing campaigns based on the Pitchbook product suite, things that we're coming out with, enhancements that are really meeting the needs of our clients. We have a internal research and analyst team that we really take a lot of market insight from and bring marketing campaigns to life with that information as well. I work really closely with our product team, with this market analyst team to really determine where we're going as a business and try to improve our product as much as we can based on our client need. And then drawing that parallel to what's happening in the market and really making sure that we're marketing ourselves as an organization accurately and making sure that clients and prospective clients know what we do, know who we are, and know the products and services that we provide. Our main goal, the main goal for my team is really lead generation. So creating these marketing campaigns to support this goal is our main goal, right? And executing these through traditional channels like Twitter, like social media, things like that, and other digital paid and organic channels as well.
Wow, fascinating. A follow-up question for Melissa here. With the changing landscape of elections and the power of social and what we've seen and how world leaders use it, have you noticed a major change just in the last 3 to 4 months from your day-to-day operation than say before November 3rd or November 4th when our US election took place?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter, we had started really evolving our policy in 2019 when we said that we would take political ads or ban political ads on the platform. We also were the first platform to start to label tweets that we perceived to potentially have misinformation in them. With COVID, believe it or not, it was really important for us to make sure that we were highlighting government or organizations like the WHO and the CDC to make sure that people were finding the right information there. And some of that carried over into politics as well. And we'd been preparing for the November 3rd election for some time because we knew some of the issues that would be happening there. So I'd say it's an evolution. It will continue to be an evolution. We're in a time without precedent. Platforms like Twitter haven't existed obviously before. And so what we're trying to do is create a really values-based set of principles to guide our decisions that we can also deploy at scale. And so you'll have seen, I think it was last week, we actually announced that we would be reviewing our world leader policy again, and we put it out to the people, to the users to solicit feedback on their point of view, but we're also working with a lot of different organizations to get their point of view on this as we balance freedom of speech, but also how do we serve the public conversation, but also how do we make sure that we're providing a balanced point of view and hopefully, enriching how people look at different issues of the day. So it's not black and white by any means. And, Jack was in front of Congress last week testifying with other tech leaders, and it's something that we're really, really focused on.
Great. Thank you.
Fascinating. I know there's something going on in India as well, right? With the Prime Minister of India. Yeah.
Yes. India, France, China presents some interesting things. Mexico, AMLO, this is global, and Twitter is used as a public utility in many ways. And so, we don't think we should be the decision makers on what's true or not true, but we're trying to find a way to sort of also make sure that we're surfacing the right information in the right way. So it's really complex.
If we have time, we have to talk about Bernie Sanders' comment towards the end. Right. So our second question, what was your educational and career path you took to get to where you are today in this digital marketing world? And we'll start with Nicole.
Great question. So obviously I'm a Coug alumni, so go Cougs. And as kind of in my bio, I described it, I wanted to be a news anchor for the longest time. I think I was probably 7 years old where I said, yeah, I want to be a meteorologist or a news anchor. It kind of fell into, I liked doing theater. So being on screen, I thought was more realistic in the news world than as an actress, right? As my parents always say, the realistic route, and you can still do the fun things you want to do. And so I loved it. I fell in love with that passion, went to Murrow College, fell in love with it even more. I feel all of the professors there taught us very well how journalism works and the way that it should grow and work. When I graduated school, I realized that I didn't want to jump around too much because I had found the person I was going to marry. I was like, okay, I kind of want to settle down a little earlier than I thought, but I've always been very career oriented. So I went into Creme2 News and decided that social media and marketing, kind of the back end commercials and stuff, really intrigued me. And I loved editing video. That was something that was very fun to me and captivating. So from that point forward, I got tons of experience, in-field experience. I followed reporters. It was super fun. Would help them edit, cuts and stuff for promo videos in, under an hour. It's very fast paced, and that's what I really liked. And I think the college really set us up and sets us up well for those type of positions, which I think is really important, because that's one thing that when you get into the news world, you guys, it is quick, it's fast, things are always changing. And so I felt very prepared for that. And then when I wanted to move, and kind of how everything has moved, it's been in the direction of entrepreneurship, right? So I wanted to find something where I could get even more experience. I wanted more of a raise. So I will say the money was a thing there too. And I had a decision to make. I could move at an offer in Texas, and I can move, make more money, still do what I was doing and love it, or I could change total different industries. So I changed industries because I surprisingly liked Spokane. And with that, went into helping in the marketing field for a staffing and recruiting firm, which really allowed me to get creative with video, because as we all know, when you go to a cold call marketing space, they're not used to video. All of them are like, I call on the phones or I send email. And I said, well, if you want to make actual relationships with people, because relationships are what sell, video is going to be it. So we really focused on getting the recruiters more comfortable on screen, and helping them just say hi to people, right? It's the video connection. And what we've seen, obviously the past year, is that's how we're connecting with everybody. And even though we're not in person, we can still make really solid relationships. So once I realized I could do that, and I wanted to work for small business owners, so that was just something I'm so passionate about here locally, my husband brought up the idea and said, hey, why don't you start your own agency and really support these women entrepreneurs that need you? And that's kind of how I bounced into where I'm at now.
Thank you, Nicole. Melissa?
Of course.
Melissa, you want to go next? I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay, so while I didn't go to Washington State University, I grew up here in the Palouse, and I'm very proud of that. I went to journalism school at the University of Missouri, and what I always say about journalism school that I use to this day is it taught me how to write well, it taught me how to communicate well, and it taught me how to ask really good questions, which I use all of those skills today in everything I do. I flipped a coin when I graduated. Heads was going to be New York, and tails was Washington, D.C., and it came up heads. So I moved to New York, and I spent 11 years working on the agency side. And I think what was really helpful for me in that time is I resisted specializing in any kind of one subject matter. I tried to be a generalist, so I worked on a variety of brands across different verticals. And so got to learn the lexicon of all these different sort of industries and what matters to them and how they measure and how they speak. And toward the end of my career, I was in a position where, on the agency side anyway, I was in a position where I was running a lot of our new business. And that was when we started to see these new channels start to emerge, and pushed my agency to go there first when we were thinking about places to put brands. And so ultimately moved from consumer marketing to our sort of, at that time, fairly nascent digital practice, and built out our consumer digital team, which then put me in the right spot when Twitter was sort of looking at, building out their revenue approach. They wanted somebody who had sort of come from this world and worked across many different industries and understood how people measured and spoke to those things. So it allowed me to sort of go into Twitter and then take different roles based on where the company was at and the stage we were at in terms of what we needed to grow. So that's how I got to where I am now.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah, actually, it's fun to hear the parallels I have a little bit with both Nicole and Melissa in my career path. I went to WSU as well, graduated in 2011. I initially came in thinking I wanted to also be in broadcasting, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to go to WSU and study in the School of Communication or College of Communications. Decided, after the first couple of years, doing that pre-coursework before we get into that focused coursework, that I was more interested in advertising. So I took the leap and moved over there and really dug in. But very similar to Melissa, I think that journalism base that we learn at WSU in the College of Communications is so key to learning how to write, how to communicate, how to ask good questions. I thought that was great that you pointed that out. It really is a great base for any career in general, but really a career in marketing, career in digital marketing specifically. So after got into those capstone classes at WSU, and I had an internship at a branding and marketing agency my junior year of college in the summer, and that really helped set me up for post graduation and kind of thinking about where I wanted to go from there. Graduated 2011. It was kind of a tough time to find a job. I moved back home. I'm from Puyallup originally. Did not want to live in Puyallup forever. So I really wanted to get up to Seattle, but needed a job, right? And I was doing some part-time work for a couple of local businesses, helping them figure out social media because nobody knew really, how to navigate that on the business side. And so I finally, got up to Seattle, worked at a law firm for a little bit. Definitely just kind of took the first job that came at me and was able to grow from there, just taking the opportunity to say, hey, let's do some marketing, or, just kind of trying to figure it out as I went. And luckily the people I've worked for were really open to that and open to letting me experiment a little bit. From there, I jumped a little bit into consulting and did some consulting with a couple of different organizations, a couple of different companies across the area in a bunch of different industries, right? Tech, retail, things like that, working in different marketing tactics. So email marketing was a focus of one of the roles, more of the retail marketing, paid search, things like that. It was very interesting to kind of get a lay of the land almost. And back then I remember thinking, oh, I really want a full-time permanent role in something. But looking back now, thinking that was a really formative part of my career and really helped me understand what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Coming out of that phase, I did land a role at an agency, a digital marketing agency in Seattle, which was really, really pivotal, I think, in my career. And really helped me get to the place that I am today, where, I've worked on the agency side. I currently now work in-house at Pitchbook. I've kind of seen all sides of things, which I think gives me a really good balance and understanding of the industry in general, different trends, different how it works for different, B2B, B2C, things like that. I think just understand and being able to understand an entire, a bigger swath, I guess you could say, of pieces in the digital marketing agency. So I've been at PitchBook for about 3 years now, like I mentioned earlier, running our campaign marketing side of things. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you. And this next question actually works fairly well because Nicole being a more recent graduate, Madeline, you being about 10 years out, Melissa, sorry, but about 20 years out. But my question will start with you, Nicole. How has the digital marketing industry changed since you joined?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I just started my business full time about 19 months ago. So obvious, like it was 6 months right before COVID. So I was only 6 months full time and COVID hit. And there was a moment there where I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be fine. I was hitting my bills. I was hitting good goal months for me to like sustain, right? If clients fell off or they didn't have us. And then for me, what actually happened is people started to utilize it more because they needed to. So brick and mortar businesses that I had been reaching out to locally, and I said, hey, this is a great opportunity. And this is before, COVID. You don't have a huge social presence. I know you have great foot traffic, but what can we do more to support this growth, right? Because if you optimize both platforms, foot traffic and online, you're just going to continue to soar. And I remember getting so many no's and I was pretty defeated, right? Because I was like, my virtual clients, they get it, but I really wanted to grow in Spokane. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and they're like, okay, Nicole, like we're ready. So it really changed it. I wouldn't say necessarily in like, it was definitely a positive way because people started to realize the positives, right? Because a lot of people look at social media negatively because there is a lot of negative to it. But as business owners, during a time where they're like, I can't have my business open physically, it allowed them to really expand. So I got on my feet. I had to learn exponentially quicker. I needed to hire 2 interns who eventually turned into full-time people because I was just getting so busy. And it really allowed me to see where we can make a difference online in a positive way with business owners, right? And take the negative out of it. So for me, it's been really fun navigating it and having all these opportunities to really help clients continue to flourish.
Great, thank you. And Melissa, please.
Gosh, when I first started, we were excited when we could build websites. So that really says something. But it's obviously evolved significantly. I can remember when we were pitching J&J, what ultimately became their first social media campaign. MySpace was bigger than Facebook at the time. And we ultimately recommended Facebook because it looked like they were creating a better platform for brand marketing at the time. And so now Facebook obviously has a very sophisticated advertising offering, and there's a lot of other players in the space. And so when I look at sophistication of targeting, how data is used, how machine learning is used, there's a lot of different ways in which it's gotten to a whole other place. I think the other thing that we've really seen is, before advertisers would put, huge portion of their budget on TV. And now you've seen that sort of get fractured. People are on so many different channels and putting their information or attention rather in so many different places. Capturing somebody in a place where their brain is actually cued to the message has greater value sometimes than just sort of doing some sort of blanket thing and hoping it lands with 1%. So we're seeing marketers get a lot more sophisticated in terms of how they reach people. The flip side is that we're also seeing greater awareness of privacy and what that means. I'm a big fan of what Apple's doing and how they're trying to protect people. And I think I would hope people are getting savvier about their own information and how that might be used. And so it just means marketers are going to have to work harder to find people in the right places and in the right frame of mind.
Great, thank you. And Madeline, please.
Yeah, that's a great point, Melissa. All of that is really resonant to kind of how I've seen it change recently as well, or over the past, 10 years or so as well. I think, the point about marketing budgets really just focusing on one tactic, and now it's really a wide swath, and mostly, if not all, digital, right? Like I know at least at Pitchbook, we trying print is something that we did a couple of years ago, and it's like we're like kind of getting back into the swing of that. But it's really interesting to see how that switched from when right when I graduated WSU. I think one of the biggest things too, and I always think about this, is when I graduated, I didn't have an iPhone until post graduation, and the iPhone had come out a few years ahead of time, but I didn't have one until then. But now, just thinking about the huge impact and the big focus on mobile, that was something that's been big since probably I, started in my career, thinking about, designing websites and making sure that they're responsive, and making sure that, the search intent of things is different for desktop as opposed to, mobile. What are people searching for? Different, platforms that we're using. We're not, all the social media pieces. I know we've touched on that a lot. It is such a big piece of this. I think, again, the tools that we use continue to get smarter, which is really exciting, but also, again, really, just they're getting smarter. So we're having to think more about privacy and things like that, but also, just working harder to predict intent of our clients and our potential customers has really been something that I've found pretty interesting over the years, and using those tools and really leveraging them to, make the right decisions and make the right calls and make the right, get in front of, like Melissa said, in the right place at the right time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. It sort of makes me also reflect on how much it has impacted our own teaching as instructors, right? I mean, it's one thing to teach advertising and marketing, and suddenly you realize that whole industry, or the way we taught it, is gone. It's just completely changed in how we have to sort of structure these courses. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, right? We're still in the midst of a pandemic, and I'm sure, like some of you mentioned, that things have changed. I mean, I have students telling me, they got into streaming on Twitch during this, and that's all they want to do now. But how has the pandemic sort of affected the digital marketing industry, and how have your clients and agencies adapted to it? Have you seen an increase, a decrease? What's going on out there? Nicole, do you want to start first?
Yeah, I can totally start. So for me, like Melissa was saying too, data has been really huge. So we do a lot of Facebook advertising here. And that's been something that during the pandemic, I was able to really ramp up for product-based clients, right? So a lot of my clients who are working with us had to utilize that because everybody's buying online. So they saw huge increases due to us utilizing that information and making sure that we were continuing to just help them grow. A lot of them were like, Nicole, I just don't want to be in a deficit. Let's help that. And then we had to be like, okay, well, we need to make sure we have product is, because if we sell out, these ads can't keep running. So something I noticed was companies who are able to adapt. It's the adaptability, and that's something that I really love about the marketing field, is we're always learning something. And for me, I think that's what continues to make me love and be passionate about this field, also, as well as helping, small businesses stay in trend with it too, because they're thinking of things totally different than we as marketers are, right? They're seeing it as, I need to make money, I need to sell my service or my product. We're seeing it as, okay, well, we have to approach your customers or your clients in a different way that actually speaks to them, right? So we're like the middleman of the connection there. And for me, it was my clients who were able to adapt, able to be like, okay, I'm going to invest. I don't know if this is going to work. And most of the time it did, right? Most of the time it allowed them to grow their visibility, to grow their brand. People during the pandemic, something I noticed on traits wise was they're a lot more willing to help marketers or businesses who were small, right? They wanted those smaller businesses to support instead of the bigger businesses. And so that was something that we kind of got to utilize more of was, hey, make sure to mention you're a small business and this is going to help you guys grow. And so it was really interesting to see kind of the community come together too online and really support those people who needed it most, especially restaurants who are closed, especially businesses who really can't do anything more, online. They can just say, hey. And so I loved helping the restaurants and being able to get kind of those to-goes and just the community support around it. I know it obviously varies where you're located, but since Spokane's a smaller town, it was something that was just really cool to see the community come together. And I think that brings a new light to what social media can do for businesses.
Thank you. Melissa?
So I think what we saw is, and continue to see is, a lot of this is dependent on sort of bigger macroeconomic things. So we're looking at consumer confidence in different markets, because while people are making runs to buy, canned foods and toilet paper, certainly there are other categories that really struggled this last year. So you look at the movie industry, right? And they held or delayed many releases because they want to wait until people can get back in theaters. I can't wait to watch, the next Top Gun, but it's going to be a while. And so, understanding that piece of it, I think was pretty critical for us. We also saw from a creativity perspective, remote work has posed a lot of challenges to some of our clients when you can't gather everyone in a room together to really think things through. The agencies also struggled culturally on this. And so I think this is important because I think we're going to continue to have some sort of distributed workforce, even when things, maybe return to some semblance of normalcy. And it's important for all of us to think about, because I do believe in serendipity. When you sort of run into people and all of a sudden you start jamming on an idea, I believe in shared energy and what that can do for something. I believe in diverse perspectives, and it's really easy to call the person it's harder to foster a relationship with somebody who maybe comes from a different point of view that you don't know, and maybe sits in a different kind of group that you don't identify with. And so these are sort of the challenges that we're looking at as we think about our workforce of the future, and how do we keep doing really creative, interesting things if we're all separated in some way? How do we facilitate ingenuity and innovation?
Thank you. Madeline?
Yeah, no, those are really great points, both Melissa and Nicole. But I would say for Pitchbook's a little bit different. We're kind of at that mid-sized company level, and we were really worried going into the pandemic that our clients, we sell a subscription-based service, so we thought that it's not cheap. It's not individual. It's mostly sold to large businesses for investing purposes. So it's not cheap. And so we were like, oh man, everyone's gonna get rid of their subscription, right? But really, we found that they needed it more than ever because they really needed to be on top of the market more than ever. So taking that, while not capitalizing on a pandemic, because obviously that's not something that we want to do personally, professionally, any of that. But really just making sure that our clients had the most up-to-date information and the most accurate information, and we could provide that as the service provider. I would say, as far as the digital marketing side of things, instead of changing, I think we just became a lot more focused on what our goals were and making sure that we were operating really efficiently. The spend on all of our paid accounts was, efficient, and that we were, getting the best leads for the lowest amount of money, right? We're talking about quantity over quality in everything that we're talking about now, which was really, a pivot we needed to make, or we're in the process of making regardless of the pandemic. But it really helped us, come to that conclusion that we need to really key in on what our customer needs are, and that making sure that we're efficiently targeting them with the right message at the right time, and making sure that we're really helping them, make sure that their businesses are successful as well. So.
Great, thank you. Super excited for this next question, and it involves artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the question is, how is artificial intelligence and machine learning currently affecting digital marketing, and where do you see it in the future as we move forward here? And let's start with you, Nicole, please.
Um, so I love this question because as a Facebook advertiser, right, and all the new changes with iOS, even though I think it's awesome because privacy is important, as an advertiser, it kind of hinders us a bit. And not in like necessarily a negative way, because I like to tell my clients, right, you're still going to get the same reach, the same sales. It's just pretty much what the iOS change, you guys, is what this is, right? For advertisers, I'll explain it a little bit. Is they're not letting Facebook and any other social channel keep the data for as long on those people. So for Facebook, it used to be 28 days, we'd be able to retarget and re-hit these people, have all their data, track where they're going, website wise, what they're searching, all of these, why when you're speaking into your phone and then all of a sudden ads pop up on Facebook, kind of that type of stuff. And what it allows us to do is that we only have access for that data for about 7 days now instead of 28. For my clients, it doesn't really hinder them any because we make sure to do detailed targeting and that we're hitting the proper people. But what it does hinder is it's the tracking on like the advertiser's end, right? So I can't say on day 15 that Sally Joe actually came from our ad anymore, like I used to be able to do. I only have 7 days to contribute that sale to her from our ad at that time. But what I like about artificial intelligence currently is, one, it gives us that data, right? We really get to learn about people, what they're currently doing, what they're liking, what intrigues them. So we, as the humans, can get better at the advertising that we're creating. I tell my clients all the time that I don't want to run ads fully on the AI of Facebook because here's what it does. It's like the C+ of everything, right? It's passing, it's good. But when you add human into it, right? When you add what we know about our people, what we know about our customers, we can get to A+, type of campaigns. And that's obviously my goal for all of my clients, all of my customers. And it's something that is very good to utilize with. It's like an and, right? It's not an or, it's not just by itself. There's always going to be need for us humans to get involved and really support it to continue to grow. So I love it as its supporting factor. And it's really fun to just kind of dive in deeper and understand the psychology, right? Like the subconscious mind of our perfect customers and clients.
Great. Thank you. Melissa, please.
So I think I sort of separate artificial intelligence from machine learning when I think about what it means for the future. There's a woman who sits on our board, Fei Ling, who she's the co-director of Stanford's AI department, and she uses a phrase called human augmented AI. AI will not take over the planet. We don't think. But what she means by that is that it does make us smarter and arm us to be better. So you think about like a doctor who, is making a diagnosis. AI has been proven to make people much more accurate in terms of how they're diagnosing and treating diseases. From a marketer perspective, what that means is I could show everybody on this call the same data set, and your data is only as good as your interpretation of it. And so by individual, you might see different people sort of highlight different things. AI can sort of see all the patterns and often sort of surface things that we might not have seen otherwise. The machine learning piece to me is interesting because what it does is it presents opportunities for scale. So for example, at Twitter, we acquired a company called Magic Pony a few years ago, which by the way is probably the best company name I've ever heard. And we acquired them because of their what they'd been able to build from a machine learning and AI perspective. And one of the things that they had built was basically technology that allowed us to say, look at a video of a football game, and machine learning would understand that you were looking at a football field and would essentially like fill in the green there, so that all of a sudden we were able to host much lighter weight videos on our platform as a result of that. When there's a shooting, as we saw happen at Christchurch in Australia, New Zealand, a couple of years ago, the shooter reduced or distributed a series of videos that made it really difficult for us to shut them down before people could see them live. We tend to work with our partners, Facebook and Google, in those moments because they hit Twitter first, and the other algorithms on the other websites sometimes slow when they hit there. it was because of machine learning that, frankly, we were able to identify them as they were hitting and pull them down much more quickly than we would have otherwise. From an advertiser perspective, what that means is we're now creating tools and things where people are able to engage with a campaign. They're able to sort of, tweet at, Bud Light and ask a question. And there's, a bot on the other side that is sort of coming back and giving somebody a clever response that feels right to them and unique to them. So machine learning to me presents an opportunity for scale and efficiency.
Great, thank you. Madeline, please.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Melissa and Nicole covered a lot of that really great. I mean, I really, the hinge on the point that it's the AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a human, that human intervention as well. I think pairing the two together, obviously we need to make sure that we're, thinking about things that the machine can't, right? That that AI and the machine learning can't, but and pairing those together, really the and situation that Nicole mentioned. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to hear that about Melissa, what you mentioned with, Bud Light tweeting back at you. It's like, yeah, that's a bot. That's something that's like coming and it's learning, and it's learned based on, the interactions it's had on the platform and other platforms and the things that we're feeding it as well. So I think it'll just continue to get smarter and allow us to get smarter. Again, with, the more regulation on it too. I think, again, it just makes us as humans need to get smarter, right? As marketers need to get smarter and figure out not ways around it, but ways that we can work together with it to make sure that, we're getting our message in front of the right people.
The one thing I'd suggest, the New York Times did a fantastic article called, I think it was called The Great AI Revolution. It was written maybe in 2016. I make everybody read that who's interested in this space. It's dense, but it's probably the best primer I've ever read on understanding this technology and what it could mean.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all. I mean, that was so insightful. I mean, if there's one thing that keeps me up at night, it's, as a professor, as an instructor, my goal is to prepare students so that they go on to be successful like you guys, right? I want them all to go out there, have these great jobs. But when you think about AI and ML, sort of, building this algorithm-driven industry where they're doing everything that we used to do as humans, right? All these functions of media planning and everything seems to be all. So as a follow-up question, what should students be doing to prepare themselves? I mean, if they're not going to be studying computer science, I mean, what do StratCom, strategic communication students or journalism students, how do they fit within this world?
Yeah, that's and it's a hard question to answer. I feel unless you're like in the back end of an agency, right? Because data really is what fuels your information and how you grow with understanding AI. But what I would say is really getting focused on actually following businesses, right, that you enjoy. And what you can do is on Facebook, there's this really cool way that you can actually see ads that certain companies are running. And these companies will, and how the ads work, right? If you're on Facebook and you go and you can see the ads that they're running, it will tell you the date of when ads started to run. And this is how I can see, okay, and this is how I analyze my competitors and like my clients. I go to their other ads and say, hey, here's what's been working for them for a year. So let's kind of, it's work smarter, not harder. And if you guys aren't in the back end of like creating Facebook ads yet, let's say you don't have like that opportunity, this is a great way to do that because you're going to start to see trends. But what the cool thing about being in the back end of stuff is you actually get to see the data, you get to see the interest, you get to see the engagement, you get to see what they're, clicking and then how that ROI is turning out. Because I think that's really important to grow that understanding. But again, it all starts at first with communication, right? It all starts with the copy. It all starts with the creative and then the engagement from those customers that we're trying to get. So that would be kind of the first step is understanding what you're already seeing on those trends, at least for me and like people who come work for us. But it is something that's always changing and is hard. But what I love about it is it's never going to be without a human helping it, right? It's always going to be like an assistive thing for us. It will never be able to go without that human help.
Excellent point. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, I think, to build on Nicole's point, so we can all feel safe in having jobs in the future, I think what will differentiate us from the machines is frankly our creativity. And so There's a professor at Wharton, Ethan Mollick, who just published a paper where he talks about you can actually determine people's level of creativity based on the questions they ask and what they put into Google to search. And so, when I think of some of the smartest people I know who sit in the AI space, a lot of their breakthroughs in technology have started with really interesting questions, this sort of curiosity. And so, if you don't want to go down the path of being a technologist and building this stuff, what I'd push everybody on the call to do is ask yourself, are you asking as many questions as you can and sort of looking at the world through a creative lens? And, there's a new book out by Walter Isaacson called Code Breakers that talks about, the first female to win the Nobel Prize for Science based on what she was able to do with the genetic code. And she started as a deeply curious person. And what Walter Isaacson has said is, the parallels to her, to Steve Jobs, to Leonardo da Vinci, is that they had this sort of like endless well of curiosity. So that's how I would probably prepare.
Wow, thank you, Melissa. Madeline?
Yeah, and I would say to that, all of these tools that we're using, all of these, digital platforms, whether that's social, paid search, there is a manual way to do all of the things. And I think if you're coming in at an entry level role, I know, especially for, somebody on my team, we'd have them come in and they're doing the things manually, right? They're learning how to use these platforms and learning basically what the machine learns, right? And how that is continuing to, learn based on our copy. So as you grow in your career and you just kind of get to know, or, just starting out in your career, right? Learning these platforms, they all have kind of educational pieces to it, right? So you can go to Facebook, they have, I think it's called Blueprint. You can go and, just dive in and figure out how to run ads on Facebook. And it's really interesting. And as somebody that maybe doesn't have access to a Facebook account for a business, you can kind of see how that works and see how you can do that. But again, pairing the two together, like there's always going to be a human attached to it, right? So, getting in there with the creativity, with the communication piece, as Melissa and Nicole both, mentioned, there's always going to be that creative piece that the human has to bring to it. So
excellent.
Great.
Sorry for interrupting. Not that I want to like pitch anything, but I do have a Facebook group, you guys, that is fully focused on helping with Facebook ads. So it's mostly for women entrepreneurs, but if you guys are interested in learning about that, I do have a Facebook group that I can drop in the comments for you guys, because I show the back end of it. I help you with like setting up audiences and stuff like that. So if this is kind of like an interesting route that you're wanting to go towards, that would probably be a good group as well.
Thank you, Nicole. Justin, do you think we should address our viewers' audience questions since we have about 12 minutes remaining?
Absolutely. And what we're thinking here is we wanted to make this rapid fire. And so if we can answer these as fast as we can, but be meaningful with your response, that would be great. But one thing I did want to touch on before we jump into our first questions, it sort of parlays into this. And I think what makes us special as human is our relationships, our ability to build relationships with other humans. So if you could just briefly tell us, how do you build relationships with clients during this digital world? Maybe your best advice that you could give, and Nicole, we'll start with you.
My best tip for relationships, sales, or anything relationship creative is it's not about the sale, it's about the service. Okay. It's about the value. Add value first, lead with value, lead with emotion, right? Why people are going to get connected. And then you end with what makes them want to buy, right? The actual reason for that. And relationships are really what's going to sell no matter what we do online, what we create. It's about the value and leading with service.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Melissa, please.
I see too many of our sellers, sometimes even at Twitter, go in and they start with the sell. They start telling the other person all about them and why. My best relationships have come from when I've gone in and really listened. And so going in with the right questions, letting them speak and hearing from them. The other, I think, critical piece for me is this concept of challenger selling. Look it up. There's a Harvard Business Review article about it. But essentially what you're doing is you're challenging the person across the room and sometimes putting yourself at risk to tell them something they may not want to hear in the spirit of helping them, build their business or meet their goals. And so it's been proven to be the most effective sort of selling profile when you look at sort of client relationships. So challenger selling.
Great. And Madeline, please.
Yeah. So I would definitely say, communication and transparency when in that client relationship. Things don't always go as planned. You have to be clear in your communication and really open and transparent about the processes and making sure that you're building trust. I think trust is just, the underlying thing when you're working with clients. But, going back to kind of what Melissa and Nicole were saying about, that selling point of it, making sure that you're really finding their need, right? Like what's their need? What's their underlying need before and does your product or service match their need, right? And if it doesn't, then, you might have to skip over it, right? Like they may not be the right client for you. And that's something that needs to be, you have to understand. But yeah, just really making sure, there's that trust layer there, open communication, transparency. So when something, does go awry, you can fall back on that relationship and that trust.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. So we have less than 10 minutes to go. So if we can keep these brief with a brief answer, and we'll try to get through as many of our audience questions as we can. Nanu, is there one that sticks out to you first that you think we should ask the women today?
Sure. It's a combination of two questions. So part one, what is something you wish you knew before you started your first job? And second part, what advice do you have for someone who is just going to be graduating soon?
Mine would be being realistic with your money expectations. So we didn't talk a lot about like where you were at on revenue spectrum, depending on the job that you chose. I think that's very important to look up and be prepared for, because we all have to start somewhere, especially depending on the route that you guys are choosing, right? If you're going into advertising, you can make more starting off. If you're going into broadcast, you're going to be lower. So those type of things were really important for me to understand. So I'd give that to you guys to research. And then the next thing is, if you're getting ready to graduate, the biggest thing is just being open to what's out there, right? You may find a job that has 10 of the 15 things that you want, right? And you're like, but it's not in the location that I want, or, oh, I'm not working for the company I thought I wanted to work for. Take those opportunities, okay? Because it's the opportunities that are going to help you grow and continue to move and continue to hit those career goals that you're wanting to hit.
Melissa, please.
I would say, at the beginning of my career, and I think for a lot of folks I see even today, you get hung up on title. Your career ultimately is based on the stories that you're able to tell. So chase experiences that you think are going to teach you a lot, rather than title or money, because the person with the best stories is the one who wins at the end. In terms of advice I'd give to new grads, this is probably the point of your life where you can take the greatest risks. It actually gets harder to take risks as you get older, because you might find a partner, you might have kids, like you all of a sudden get tethered to a place or a situation where you maybe don't have the flexibility to take as many risks. So do the scariest possible thing that you can do to get yourself a toehold in the area of the greatest opportunity. When I graduated, it was 2001. I moved to New York in August. 9/11 happened a month later. And yet, if I hadn't moved to New York, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Wow, love it. Thank you. Madeline?
Yeah, I would say just going in, to a first job with an open mind, right? Learn as much as you can. I think, just making and volunteering for things too, volunteering for new projects, asking for more, asking what's next, making sure that you're being really thorough with what you're doing, so you're not jumping from thing to thing. But I think really just taking those opportunities. Your first job isn't going to be your dream job. So don't go looking for that, because it's not going to be there. I know a lot of the time seniors are probably looking at jobs, entry-level jobs that are asking for 3 to 5 years experience. And you're like, where do I get this 3 to 5 years experience? I just graduated college. Apply for it anyway. Get your name on the list. People will talk to you, and sometimes, the job descriptions just don't necessarily match up with what they're actually looking for. So definitely just go for it, right? The answer is always no if you don't try. That's, something that people always say, but, yeah. And then, just going out and, as you're looking for these roles in in this new career that you're embarking on, just be open, like I said, be open and, be open to new challenges too. If you're, I think Nicole said this, if this is your job that has, 10 out of the 15 things on your must-have list, take it. That's awesome. If it has like 2 or 3, that's also awesome. So.
Great. Awesome. So if we can here in 30 seconds or less, we're going to try to combine 2 questions here. But the question is, what's the one thing that sticks out in your mind that you've learned about digital marketing during the pandemic? And where do you see digital marketing going? So if we can keep it brief, but if you have some great advice for us, we'd love to hear it. We'll start with you, Nicole, please.
Perfect. The first one is that digital marketing is needed. No matter what business you are, big or small, it is something that will continue to help us grow. And then where it's going, I see it really supporting multiple people, multiple businesses, schooling, everything will be moved to more of kind of hybrid. I think they're going to see the value in that. And people are going to grow very well from it. So that's kind of what I see it going.
Great. Melissa, please.
I think just how dynamic the space is. They're just our newcomer. I just was chatting with somebody yesterday who's creating a technology in a startup that's going to, solve a lot of the issues that the iOS 14 change will introduce. So there's no declared winner yet in terms of who's going to dominate this. And in terms of where it's going, it's going to be drafting off of that. I think as we look at consumer behaviors, there's so much that is changing right now in our own, where we live, how we eat, what we watch, how we watch, that, the field is open for a ton of disruption and innovation in this space.
Awesome. Thank you. Madeline, please.
Yeah, I would say, the flexibility and just the adaptability piece for how, things have been going in the pandemic and how it's changed since the pandemics began. That flexibility piece I think is really, really key. Also the focus piece, I think I mentioned that before as well. And then as far as where it's going, I think it'll just continue to iterate and grow, as new technologies come out, as AI and machine learning continue to progress. I just think as we go and just learn to partner with those technologies better, I think it's only going to be, only going to get better from here.
Fantastic.
As a follow-up question to that, there's a question which says, what do you guys think of the new social media platforms like Clubhouse? Or if you don't know what Clubhouse is, what do you think is going to be the next TikTok?
I love Clubhouse. So I will say Clubhouse is awesome, especially if you guys are wanting to learn about big digital brand marketers out there. There are people from high up, they're giving you crazy information. So I'm definitely a fan of that. So I highly recommend that for you guys if this is the field you're wanting to go in, which I'm assuming all of you are. So.
Thank you. Melissa.
I think when I look at, so we've just launched something on Twitter called Twitter Spaces, which is also an audio version of just connecting people. And what we're seeing, the advantage there is that there are a lot of people who are connected on Twitter who've never met before, but they're connected because they share interests. And so we're seeing some really cool serendipity and of conversations happen there as a result. As in terms of what will be the next major platform, I think I do think that there's a lot of opportunity, frankly, when we do look at the audio space. I also think, to me, where I see an area of opportunity is the disconnection that's happened via the remote way in which we're all working. And so to me, that looks like an area where I see a potential for somebody to come in and maybe connect us in a better way.
Excellent. Thank you. Madeline?
Yeah, I haven't fully looked into Clubhouse, but from an advertiser's perspective, I know the participants in there are, thought leaders. And from like I said, from an advertiser's perspective, that's a very interesting group for the product that I market. So that's something that we're kind of looking into from that angle. But yeah. Not a lot to add there.
Well, great, ladies. Thank you, Nicole, Diedrich, Melissa Barnes, Madeline, Jeffrey, all ladies who drank the water on the Palouse. We were so happy to have you today, and we're going to wrap this up. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.